Hello, I received your question here for this function here. Determine it's 1 to 1. I think you said you were okay with that. So find the formula for the inverse. I think the last part's where you indicate you had a question. Give the domain and range of the inverse and graph both functions on the same axis. I think I would do the graphing before I would identify the domain and range. So how do you graph this line here? Well, if I go back to our old notation, y equals 5x minus 6. Maybe you recognize it's a linear equation. Graphs a straight line, so you just need two solutions to it. And so if I just pick two numbers for x, since it's solved for y, maybe I'll pick 0 and 2. You can pick any numbers you want here. I'll substitute those in for x and find the corresponding value of y. And so if we put in 0 here, it'd be y equals 5 times 0 minus 6, or negative 6. So one solution here would be 0, negative 6. And I'll repeat this. I'll substitute in 2. And so y would equal 5 times 2 minus 6. Well, that would be, 4. And so since it's a straight line, if I have 2 points, I can graph this feller. It also asks you to graph the inverse. And if you remember, if you just interchange the order pairs here, that'll give you points on the inverse, which is also a straight line. Maybe I'll do that in red. So the inverse function here, we want to graph it. And so, if I had a couple ordered pairs, I could do that. And so, we could just put numbers into this equation and find the solutions, but I'm a little lazy. It'd just be easier to interchange these ordered pairs. And so negative 6, 0, and 4, 2. You could verify that. If you put negative 6 into this equation, you get 0. If you put 4 in there, you'll get 2. Okay, if you want to verify your work. So I have I have solutions to the original equation. I have solutions to the inverse. So that's enough to draw the graphs. Need a little bit more space here. So I draw my two axes here. I want to draw the graph. And so let's see, if I do this one in blue, 0, negative 6 will be somewhere down here. And then 2, 4 will be somewhere here. And so that's the original function. And I'm doing the inverse in red. So negative 6, 0 will be back here. And then 4, 2 will be somewhere over here. So that in red's the inverse. So, you said you had trouble drawing the graphs, and so just find two solutions and draw the graph. Of course, you find two solutions of the function, and then if you just interchange ordered pairs, you have two solutions for the inverse. You also asked about the domain and range. Well, I want to graph them first because, looking at the graph can help aid you in the domain and range. If you look at the blue graph, how far left and right does it go? Well, it goes left and right forever, and it goes up and down forever, which is true of all diagonal lines, and the red one's also a diagonal line. And so for a line, domain and range, it's going to be all real numbers or negative infinity to positive infinity, which is, I guess, over here. I hope this helps.